Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. First phase of polling ends for Gujarat Assembly election. Fate of 977 candidates to be decided in 89 of the total 182 seats. Voting spread out over 19 districts of Kutch, Saurashtra and South Gujarat. Campaigning continues for the second phase of elections in the state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi questions the Congress on promise to give reservations to Patels. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi says his party will waive off farmer loans within 10 days. Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra calls for institutional arbitration system, seeks minimum interference of courts and maximum execution of arbitration awards to attract foreign investments. And Left Alliance wins 26 of the 30 parliamentary seats in Nepal, leads comfortably against opposition Nepali Congress. Nation seeing simultaneous parliamentary and provincial assembly elections that are expected to bring political stability. Well, let's now bring you up to date with some news from Gujarat. The first phase of polling ended in Gujarat today. The voter turnout is reported to be as high as 70%. The Election Commission is yet to declare the exact polling percentage. 89 of the 182 seats witnessed polling in the first phase. The next phase of elections will take place on December 14th. Our correspondent Panchanan Mishra gets you this report on how the first phase of polling was conducted in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's home state.
The first phase of polling for the high-stakes Gujarat Assembly election ended on Saturday. Voting began at 8 a.m. for the 89 seats in the Saurashtra and South Gujarat region. Voters turned up in large numbers. Many of them said development and employment were the two major issues for them.
वही जीतेगा जो गुजरात का अच्छा भला सोचेगा,
जो सबके लिए अच्छा काम करे, समाज के लिए उपयोगी हो.
They shouldn't divide us based on, Hindu, Muslim or caste or anything, that sort of thing. Yeah, they should think about the country first.
गुजरात का और पूरे देश का जो रक्षक है, उनको हम चुनेंगे.
The early voters included incumbent Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, senior Congress leader Ahmed Patel, Gujarat BJP Chief Jeetu Waghani and cricketer Cheteshwar Pujara.
हम चाहते हैं कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा सब अपने वोट का इस्तेमाल करें और लोकतंत्र के इस प्रणाली को पवित्रता के साथ उसका उपयोग करें और आज का दिन 14 तारीख भी एक उत्सव की तरह हम उसको संजोए.
जिस तरह से यहाँ के जो मतदाता और लोग परेशान है भारतीय जनता पार्टी से, किसान परेशान है, मजदूर परेशान है, व्यापारी परेशान है, महिलाएं परेशान है, दलित परेशान है, आदिवासी परेशान. कौन सा वर्ग ऐसा है जो परेशान है?
People are very excited. I think I have already casted my vote, so I would request all the young people who are eligible to vote.
This being the marriage season, brides and grooms clad in wedding finery were also seen at polling booths. Many such couples came out to vote in Bharuch, Bhavnagar, Gondal and Surat.
आज मेरी शादी है और मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि आज जब हमारी शादी के दिन ही हम आज वोटिंग कर रहे हैं, तो ये हमारे लिए खुशी का त्योहार बन गया है.
There were also reports of technical glitches in electronic voting machines and faulty VVPATs at some polling centres. The Election Commission said the machines were immediately replaced, after which the polling process resumed.
48 नंबर का बूथ है, उसमें जो CU और BU है उसको हमने चेंज किया था क्योंकि कुछ भी वजह से इलेक्ट्रॉनिक साइट में तो गड़बड़ आ सकती है. तो गड़बड़ी तो नहीं बोलते लेकिन वो स्टार्ट नहीं होता है तो उसको चेंज कर दिया और ये 50 नंबर का बूथ था उसमें VVPAT को चेंज किया.
The fate of 977 candidates was sealed in Saturday's polls. Prominent among them was Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, who is contesting from Rajkot West. Others included Congress's Shakti Singh Gohil contesting from Mandvi and Paresh Dhanani from the Amreli seat. With inputs from Panchanan Mishra, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me on the phone line right now from Rajkot is our correspondent Panchanan Mishra. Panchanan, a big day in Gujarat today. How did voting go?
Absolutely, Frank. It was a very big day, and the first phase was very crucial for all the political parties, especially for the BJP, because the dominance of the Patel voters here in more than, you can say, 31 seats in the 89 seats. And it will be very much crucial for the BJP also, because the Patels were their traditional voters. But this time there was some, you may say, that distraction from the party, and we have to see that Patels voted to the BJP line or other line. It will decide. It may decide the fate of first phase, is the 89 seats. But it's very important for all the political parties, because Congress was also excited to see that they have Patels on with the Hardik Patel, and they are claiming that the Patels are united at the front of Hardik Patel. So it has to be seen. And the issue of farmers is also important, because Congress has promised in manifesto that if it comes to power, then there will be a waiver of farm loans. So the farmers and Patels, this combination was very crucial for this first phase, and it has to be seen, because the voter turnout was pretty good. It's more than 60% up to 4 p.m. And it will be increased when the data from Election Commission comes first. So it has to be seen because it's a deciding phase, first phase. And now all is set for the second phase, and the campaigning is at very high. The Prime Minister is hosting rallies for second floor. Yeah, Frank.
Sure. You know, as far as the first phase of polling is concerned, it's now done and dusted. It's over. Who are some of the bigwigs whose fate was sealed today?
It was Rupani, the Chief Minister candidate who was contesting from Rajkot West, and also Jeetu Waghani, the BJP president. And at the Porbandar, there was Arjun Bhai Motwadia, and also from Kutch, Mandvi, Shakti Singh Gohil, and many others ministers of Gujarat cabinet were there in the fray. That's why it's so important, because as we have heard that Rupani has said he expressed his confidence that he is winning, and we have listened to voters that they were mostly the seat was mostly for the BJP, and since 1984 he was very looking confident. So it will be had to see what the leaders will be the fate.
All right. Of course, the fate has been decided as far as the first phase is concerned. We'll know the results, of course, in just a few days' time. December 18th is when the results will be out. Now, meanwhile, on the second day of rallies for the second phase, Prime Minister brought up the Congress's promise for Patel quota, while Rahul Gandhi continued blaming the government for ignoring farmers. Here's a report.
In his first attack on Congress's promise on Patel quota, Prime Minister Narendra Modi questioned how the Congress plans to make the promise a reality.
कोई मने के भाई અહીં અમારા મુસલમાન ભાઈઓ પણ આવેલા છે કોઈ એ અનામત તમને આપ્યું ખરી ના ઓબીસી નું પડાઈ લેશો આ આદિવાસીઓનું પડાઈ લેશો આ દલિતોનું કાંથી લાવવાના છો તમે ભાઈઓ બહેનો કાં તો બીજાનું લૂંટવાના છે કાં તો લોકોના મનમાં ઝૂઠ ફેલાવવાના છે.
Modi also said that the people in almost all the states have rejected the Congress government.
મહારાષ્ટ્રમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, મધ્યપ્રદેશમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, છત્તીસગઢમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, ઝારખંડમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, રાજસ્થાનમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, ઉત્તર પ્રદેશમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, उत्तराखंडમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ, જમ્મુ કાશ્મીરમાંથી કોંગ્રેસ ગઈ.
Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi questioned the government's policies and promised to waive off farmer loans within 10 days of forming the government.
क्या गलती की है गुजरात के किसान ने? क्या कमी है आप में कि हिंदुस्तान के 10 सबसे बड़े उद्योगपतियों का लाखों करोड़ रुपए हो सकता है और गुजरात के किसान का 1 रुपया नहीं माफ हो सकता है? क्या कमी है आप में? आप मुझे बता दो. कांग्रेस पार्टी की यहां सरकार बनेगी, 10 दिन के अंदर कांग्रेस पार्टी किसान के कर्जा माफ की पॉलिसी अनाउंस कर देगी.
Voting for 89 constituencies of Saurashtra and South Gujarat region ended in the first phase on Saturday. The remaining 93 constituencies in central and northern regions will vote in the second phase on the 14th of December. Votes will be counted on 18th of December. Bureau Report, Sabha TV.
Well, moving on to other news now. For India to attract investments, it needs to develop a good institutional arbitration system with minimum interference of courts and maximum execution of arbitration awards. Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra, said this at the International Conference on Arbitration in the Era of Globalization. Here's more.
Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra has advocated the need for a good institutional arbitration system in the country while also keeping in mind India's interests. He said this would help bring investment as global investors will have faith in the system.
An investment can come when we can really inculcate faith amongst the investors that we have a very good or excellent arbitral system. We have an institutional arbitration model, and there are so many arbitrators, as you said, trained arbitrators.
Arbitration is a constitutional procedure that ends disputes in an unbiased way. It is usually used in matters of business. Regarding international disputes, he said they are required to be solved through an international dispute resolution mechanism.
When I say international disputes are concerned, it means international disputes, that is commercial disputes at the international level. They are to be solved through what you call international alternative dispute resolution mechanism. We have to adjust. But when you adjust, we don't surrender our conceptual sovereignty.
The International Conference on Arbitration in the Era of Globalization was organized by the Indian Council of Arbitration. The conference saw the participation of about 200 people from 30 countries. Vikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Finance Minister Arun on Saturday reiterated that the proposed FRDI bill protects the rights of depositors, denying reports to the contrary. Apart from allegations by opposition parties, there has also been a debate on social media on a particular clause in the bill which apparently would allow banks to use depositors' money to bail themselves out in case they face bankruptcy. But the Finance Minister assured that the objective of the government is to fully protect the interest of the financial institutions and depositors. The Financial Resolution and Deposit Insurance Bill of 2017 was presented in the Lok Sabha in August before it was referred to a joint committee of Parliament. The bill minimizes the failure of financial as well as non-financial institutions like banks, insurance companies and stock exchanges by providing measures like bail-in option to revive them.
फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के जो वित्तीय स्वास्थ्य है उसको लेकर एक कानून को पार्लियामेंट की स्टैंडिंग कमेटी कंसीडर कर रही है, उसको लेकर कुछ विवाद बने हुए हैं। मैं स्पष्ट कर देना चाहता हूं कि आज की इस तारीख में इस विषय के साथ संबंध करना और इससे डील करना इसका कोई कानून नहीं है देश में। तो स्वाभाविक है कि एक कानून बनेगा और जो भी सुझाव स्टैंडिंग कमेटी देगी सरकार उसको कंसीडर करेगी। सरकार का आइडिया विचार ये है कि उस प्रोटेक्शन को और मजबूत किया जाए, उसको बढ़ाया जाए, उसको स्ट्रेंथन किया जाए।
Well, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Saturday inaugurated a multi-purpose cyclone shelter and many other developmental works in Visakhapatnam's Cheppapalupada village. These developmental projects are being done under public-private partnership. Vice President Naidu lauded the people of Vizag and surrounding villages for their bravery during the cyclone in 2014. He further stressed that government policies are for public, but their participation is equally important. Here's a look now at some other news from across the country and nationwide. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday greeted Congress President Sonia Gandhi on her birthday. Extending his wishes to the leader who turned 70, Modi tweeted that he prays for her long life and good health. Sonia Gandhi, who has been facing health issues for some time now, has stayed away from Gujarat, where a bitter battle is on between her party and the ruling BJP. Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh has said that the territorial integrity of the northeastern states will not be compromised while concluding the final agreement on the Naga insurgency issue. The three states strongly oppose the demand of the insurgent group NSCNIM to integrate their Naga inhabited areas. The Home Minister also appreciated the work being done by the current interlocutor Arun to find a solution. The CBI has booked the finance director of the state-run power utility NTPC Limited and two others in connection with a case pertaining to corruption. It carried out a search at his residence in New Delhi. The agency has registered an FIR against NTPC's Kulamani Biswal, BGR Mining and Infra Private Limited Director Rohit Reddy and Prabhat Kumar. Enforcement Directorate has attached assets worth 5.3 crore rupees belonging to former Karnataka Lokayukta Justice Y. Bhaskar Rao in a corruption case against him and his son. In a statement, the ED said the probe found that Bhaskar Rao was in possession of properties, blackmailing and extorting money from government officials in collusion with other co-accused. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Prolific British poet and story writer Joseph Rudyard Kipling, one of the first masters of short stories in English. In 1894 appeared his Jungle Book, which became a children's classic all over the world. Kim, the story of Kimball O'Hara and his adventures in the Himalayas, is perhaps his most felicitous work published. Set in and concerned with India he had come to know and love so well. In 1907, Kipling became the first English-language writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Trump's Jerusalem decision continues to stir violence across parts of Palestine and the Gaza Strip. Israel launched fresh airstrikes on Saturday in response to rocket fire from the enclave. The Palestinian Islamist Hamas group said 2 of its gunmen were killed in the bombings, bringing the total number of deaths in Israeli strikes and gunfire to 4. Here's a detailed report.
The second night of rocket fire since the US's controversial decision on Jerusalem. 6 children and at least 20 more people were injured by the Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip in retaliation to the 3 rockets fired at Israel on Friday. The Israeli military confirmed that the Israeli Air Force aircraft targeted 4 facilities belonging to the Hamas terror organization in the Gaza Strip, 2 weapons manufacturing sites, a weapons warehouse and a military compound. As the fire and smoke cleared, residents took stock of the damage to their homes. Yusra is one of the many residents in this building and said that they were taken by complete surprise when the airstrike took place.
الدبات كلها ورا بعضها خشت علينا كتلة نار كل البيت حسيته كله مدمر وغلغبرة والهذا وما حسيناش بالدنيا صحينا على صوت الناس والجيران والصوات في الدبة الأخيرة فتح باب الشقة علينا كله مع حمل خبطة فسمعنا كل الناس هيك أنا قمت أجري يعني جوزي فيش أنا وجوزي في البيت صرت أجري فيش مش شايفة إشي من كتر الغبرة وكتر النار اللي كانت موجودة عندي بالشقة فزي ما أنتم شايفين دمار كامل يعني.
The Israeli airstrike was in retaliation to the 3 rockets fired by the militant group Hamas on Friday, declared a day of rage by Palestinian factions. More than 300 people were injured on Friday across the West Bank, Gaza and Jerusalem. But Hamas leaders warn that this is just the beginning of their fight for Jerusalem.
لنطلق العنان لأبناء شعبنا ليعبروا
Meanwhile, protests continued in several countries, including Turkey, Iran and Pakistan. In an emergency meeting on Friday, the UN refused to recognize the US's decision, but no vote on a resolution was planned as the US has veto powers. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Well, in Nepal, the Left Alliance has won at least 26 of the 30 parliamentary seats and is leading comfortably against the opposition Nepali Congress. Latest reports claim the CPN-UML has won 18 seats, while its alliance partner, the CPN Maoist Centre, has won 8 seats. Opposition NC has won 3 seats, while 1 has gone to an independent. A total of 1,663 candidates contested polls for parliamentary seats and 2,819 for the provincial assembly seats. Election officials estimated turnout at 67% among 15 million eligible voters. Counting began on Friday, and indications are that by Sunday, a clear winner would emerge. This was the first election for 7 provincial assemblies established under the constitution adopted in 2015. The assemblies will name the new provinces once they convene. Here are some updates now from around the world in Global Buzz. UN Political Affairs Chief Jeffrey Feltman arrived in Beijing on Saturday after a 4-day visit to the North Korean capital. Feltman expressed willingness to ease tension on the Korean peninsula amid a rising war of words over the North's missile and nuclear programs. As per officials, the UN envoy acknowledged the negative impact of sanctions on humanitarian aid to North Korea. Japanese police arrested 3 crew members of a North Korean boat on Saturday for stealing a generator from a hut on an uninhabited island. Police arrested 3 of them for theft, and other crew members will be sent to the Immigration Bureau. As per experts, the increase in wooden boats in recent weeks are just carrying fishermen, including soldiers drafted to fish. There has been no suggestion that the crew members are defectors. Some 190 migrants heading for Europe were rescued off the coast of Tripoli by the Libyan Coast Guard. As per officials, the migrants, mainly from different African nationalities, were escorted to Tripoli Naval Base to receive medical care and be handed to authorities. The United Nations Migration Agency is stepping up the rate at which it flies migrants home from Libya, aiming to evacuate up to 15,000 of them by the end of December. Polish lawmakers approved an overhaul of the judiciary, giving Parliament de facto control over the selection of judges. The legislation, which, if agreed upon by the Senate and President Andrzej Duda, will heighten tensions in the EU, which has threatened legal action over the proposed reforms. Well, let's shift focus now and bring you up to speed with some news from the world of sports and Sports Beat. Germany will face Australia in the second semi-final of the World Hockey League finals later this evening. Germany defeated Netherlands in the shootout to become the 4th team to qualify for the semi-finals of the tournament in Bhubaneswar, while defending champions Australia defeated Spain 4-1 in their quarter-final bout. On Friday, India edged out of the title race after getting defeated by Rio Olympic champions Argentina 1-0. India will compete for the 3rd position on Sunday. The International Cricket Council will formulate pollution guidelines after smoke conditions hampered play in the 3rd Test match between India and Sri Lanka. The Lankan players repeatedly complained over the high levels of pollution at the Firozshah Kotla and wore masks on the field. If the ICC's medical committee finds that pollution level in the capital is too high, Kotla could lose the right to host Test matches. The matter is likely to be discussed in the ICC's meetings in February. Sri Lanka has appointed former opening batsman Chandika Hathurusingha as head coach. Hathurusingha resigned as Bangladesh coach in October after guiding the team to Test victories over England and Australia during his 3 years in charge. He will take over the Sri Lankan side from December 20th for the 3 T20 internationals against India. Athura Singha has played 26 tests for Sri Lanka between 1991 to 1999 and scored 1,274 runs at an average of 29. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia will not prevent its athletes from competing at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics if they wanted to. The International Olympic Committee banned Russia from the Olympics on Tuesday after evidence emerged of manipulation of the anti-doping system. But the IOC decided to let some Russian players compete as neutrals if their background is found doping-free. That's it on this newscast. Have a good evening.